A lot of excitement right now around tournament week. So we work for all year. Been working for it for since the last game of the tournament last year, and so excited to go to Pensacola. Really spending a lot of time planning with my staff, uh, prospecting on which teams we could play, and pulling out scout reports and tweaking them according to how they've been playing recently, and getting ready to face one game at a time. But we would need to win three in the tournament to win it.
And Coach, the first thing I want to address is Zay Dyer, obviously received All Sun Belt first team. I know that that was released, and I know that Zay's been impactful, jumping into the top 10 rankings for rebounding for the program. She also ranks in the top 5 for blocks. Just talk about, and field goal percentage and points. So just talk about what her performance was like all year and what it was like to kind of see her get the payoff there with the All Sun Belt first team.
I think you just said it right there, how versatile she is as far as it's not just the points, it's the rebounds, it's the blocks. There's so many facets that she's contributing in and night out. It's just a luxury to have and kind of build other things around it. We were very proud she got the All Sun Belt team. I was all the coaches vote on that. And so on Sunday, it was clear to me when all the nominations came in how difficult it was going to be to get on that All Sun Belt conference team. There were so many good players in our league this year. It's not always true. And sometimes it's like you almost wish more people would have been nominated. You're running out of people to put on that All Sun Belt team. But this year, it was really difficult to make it, and she made first team, and we're proud of that. And I think it's a proper reflection of the many, many contributions she gave to Troy women's basketball this year.
And Coach, for a player like Zay, obviously she's the ninth player for you that's received an All Sun Belt first team award. So talk about, obviously I don't want you to rank them or anything, but what separates Zay from the rest of the field and what makes her is very special?
I think it's on the court. It is, again, her versatility. She's so many qualities as like a guard, but tall and lanky and long arms, long legs. Her willingness to sprint the floor is unlike most post players. Her timing to block a shot or to make a move around the goal that most people wouldn't think of making. Yeah, that kind of separates her on the court. Off the court, she's just a wonderful personality, just a vibrant, fun-loving person to be around, and we've enjoyed every moment with her.
And Coach, obviously there were some notable names on this Troy roster that were left off of the list, which kind of leaves the, chip on the shoulder, I guess you could say, going into a Sun Belt tournament. I asked Scott this question: who do you think on this team is the X factor to make the difference for these back-to-back-to-back games?
It's going to be important how Mo plays, Brianna Jackson, because she maybe one or two other back to the back. We only have maybe one or two other true back to the basket players in the Sun Belt Conference. So when you run up against a player like that and you haven't been playing it night in, night out for those 14 games, it can cause a problem for people. In the last game, I think in our last game against Arkansas State, she only missed two shots in that game. So when you have somebody that you can constantly feed low down there that can actually finish the shots, it opens things up for everybody else because people will be double teaming her or shading around her. So she's an X factor. And of course, Shalana Wagner, who didn't play in a lot of these conference games. She didn't play against Lafayette during the regular season. She didn't play in a lot of games. She was out with a knee problem, and it took a while to get her back to the game. So when we're playing these teams for a second time or maybe a third time that we might see people in the conference tournament, and maybe we didn't play with her, it's kind of a different game with her because she can break presses. She can go left or right. And so she's definitely an X factor for us.
And Coach, you guys are not unfamiliar with being a top 4 team heading into this tournament. Each of the last 10 seasons, you've been ranked in the top 4 going into it, and 8 of the last 10, you've been a top 3 seed. So, obviously you have a couple rings to your name and stuff like that. But what do you think is going to be, if Troy women's basketball does this, they will win another ring? What is that thing?
We always start with rebounding. I do think we're still leading the nation in rebounding, but we have not been as dominant as some of the other teams. It's time to be completely dominant and not let anybody even come close to us in rebounding. And you said the one thing, but I always start with rebounding. But for this particular team in this particular time, it's also taking care of the basketball. we've had a problem with that, not necessarily with other people's presses or not necessarily what other people are doing to us, but I think we're trying to play so fast and we get a little careless with the ball, but it takes away possession. So the rebounds give you possessions, it adds possessions, it adds potential shots you can take, but the turnovers, of course, subtract from that. So we need both of those things working together. All the additional rebounds we can get, plus taking care of the ball and making sure we get a good shot every possession, I think that's a magic ticket.
And coach, obviously this new format for the Sun Belt top tournament is completely different. It seriously rewards the teams that did well through the
Mhm.
regular season, but also leaves a lot of uncertainty in who you could be matched up against in the quarterfinals. So just talk about how you take this approach as a coach into this tournament format.
It's when it's tournament time, whatever situation you're in, you have to look at it as it was a positive. It was all created for you, right? That's the sell to yourself and to your team. So the fact that the first and second team got to buy all the way to the semifinals, we got to buy to the quarterfinals. If I would have gotten those semifinals, we'd be, looking at the spin of we only have to win 2 games to win a championship, and that's great. But we are in the quarterfinals. We're going to make the absolute best of that. So we will have a successful game under our belt on that floor at the Pensacola Bay Center if and when we win to play the semifinal game, which is an advantage when you get to the semifinal game to have had successful experience on the court. So the new format, it does protect your higher seeds, trying to get, let's say, a James Madison, who's a top 50 team in the nation, I believe, right now, trying to protect them to get the NCAA tournament because, of course, they would get a higher seed if they win this tournament. But and I understand that, but we've been the dark horse before and won this, and we've upset people that were in the top 50 before. I think it was maybe Arkansas State one time that we upset at the tournament and won. But anyway, it's all to our advantage as long as we think of it to be that so and to be that way. So we want to look at it like, wow, we've got to get in there in that quarterfinal game, do whatever it takes to win it, and we'll be good and warmed up for that semifinal game where we can just keep taking it one step at a time.
And coach, so there was two things in the post game press conference and in the locker room after Arkansas State that really stuck out to me. The one was you used the word humble and hungry a lot. And the way that the tournament breaks out is that you guys can be humble enough to go to the quarterfinals, but hungry enough to see Arkansas State again in the semifinals. Just talk about how this team is going to take that kind of approach, to possibly get another shot at Arkansas State and then potentially, JMU in the championship.
So you're mentioning two of my three H's at tournament time: humble, hungry, and healthy. To me, those are the three H's that can make you really successful at tournament time. And so healthy, we're pretty healthy. We're very fortunate. We have a great medical team here and staff that's worked with us and kept our bodies healthy. We're thankful for that. But humble and hungry, yes, I did mention those in the locker room the last game because that is an advantage of being where we are, right? We're not riding on any high horse. We didn't win any regular season championship. And even in our last game of the season against Arkansas State, we were humbled in that game. So humbled, as long as you keep confidence while being humble, that's the key. You're humble and you're hungry. A hungry wolf is prone to bite. A hungry player is prone to stay in a defensive stance and give it their all throughout the whole game and not overlook anybody or any opportunity. So that's where we are right now. I think it's a great place to be. It's exciting and bring on March Madness. We want to upset some things and shake some things up. I don't think it's far-fetched to believe that we will. And we just go over there, humble, hungry, with all we've got, fighting for another Troy Sun Belt championship.
And coach, the second thing that really stood out to me was obviously, we've talked about it in years past working together that it's the hardest thing is to win that first game going in a little bit cold. The last 2 years, it obviously hasn't fared well for the short Trojans. What is going to be the difference this year to where you can then go into a semifinals where they're cold?
I do think it goes back to humble because it also, when you're playing the first game as that quarterfinal game, you're playing somebody who had won a game before you. You're going in there. You don't want to play the top team in your first game, right? You coming in cold and play the top team that's won the most games and have fared the best in the conference. And so I think where we are is kind of perfect. And you have to know that whoever we play will have won a game the night before. We're going to watch them, be there and watch that game, but they will have played on that floor that's very different. I think there's an ice hockey rink underneath the floor. The whole arena is very different. And just the excitement of being in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. You will play a team that has had some success on that floor the night before, but um, I just feel like that we're going to have the confidence and the humbleness and the hungriness to do it this year.
And final question, Coach. You mentioned, the Bay Center. At Pensacola, I know you're very familiar with the area, and Troy, just a couple hours away. So I know this isn't technically a home game, but the Trojan Nation will be there in attendance cheering you guys on. So just talk about what that's going to mean like to kind of get back to Pensacola and see all the Trojan Nation, rooting you guys to a ring.
Yeah. It's just so special. I'm just so thankful that the tournament is there in Pensacola. Pensacola is in a lot of ways home to me and my family and my um we have so many people calling our house, calling us in the evening time saying, "Hey, can we get tickets to the game?" Because my husband and I and our boys, we're coming back home to Pensacola. And then, like you say, it's close enough where the fans can come to Pensacola from Troy. So I feel like we have a fan base there in Pensacola because I was there before at Pensacola State College, and we raised our two sons there. And then my husband is from Pensacola, but then also it's almost like home, like you say. It's a close enough where folks can drive. Last night, I was right across the way over here at Baumhauer's restaurant. So many people were just coming up and saying they had their tickets and they had their arrangements, and they'll see us in Pensacola. And I think that's a luxury not everybody has if it's a flight to get there, right? So it's a blessing that it's so close, and we're blessed that it's right there in Pensacola, and looking forward to it.